Hello class 7. Today we will discuss about our chapter number 2 of history, which is the new kingdoms, which is the new kings and kingdoms. In this chapter we will discuss about some kings and their kingdoms. For example, Chor, Cher, Pandey, Rashtrakoot. So here we will start our chapter. Many new dynasties emerged after the 7th century. Map 1 show the major ruling dynasties in different parts of the subcontinent. Subcontinent means here this term is used subcontinent. It means that for India we are using this term subcontinent. Between the 7th and 12th century, in this chapter we will discuss about the story between 7th to 12th century. And here we are using the term subcontinent for India because subcontinent means a part of continent which is separate from the main continent because of a natural barrier. For example, India is a part of Asia continent and it is separated from the main continent which is Asia by the natural barrier which is Himalaya. So India is a part of Asia. It's separated from Asia continent because of Himalaya mountain. Here you can see the map. In this map you can easily find out some main points which we will discuss about in this chapter. The first one is Chahmans. Chahmans means nowadays it's known as Chauhans. The second one is Gurjar Pratihar. And the next one is Pal. Pals. Here you can see Palas. First one is Chahman. Nowadays we call it Chauhans. Second is Gurjar Pratihar. Third is Pal. Next one is Rashtrakoot. Here you can see Rashtrakoot. And the last one is Chol. In this chapter we will discuss about these. Mainly they are very important. In 17th to 12th century they are very important kingdoms. First one is Chauhans. Nowadays it's called Chauhans. Gurjar Pratihar, Pal, Rashtrakoot and Chol. Now the emergence of the new dynasties. Emergence means Uday hona. The emergence of new dynasties, it means new areas were emerged. By the 17th century, there were big landlords or warriors, chief in different regions of the subcontinent. Existing kings often acknowledged them as their subordinates or samand. In that time, the main chief, the warrior, which they work under control of kings. They were known as subordinates or samant also. So they known as subordinates or samant. Here you can see the term samant. They were expected to bring gift for their kings or overlords. It means that they bring gift for their king, be present at their court and provide them with military support. The work of Samant is they provide gift to king and they provide their services also. They serve for their kings. As Samant gained power and wealth, they declared themselves to be Mahasamant. When look class, the simple term is the Samant work under the control of king. But when they got power and wealth, then they declare themselves free from their kings. Mahamandaleshwar, the great lord of a circle or region, and so on. They declare them as Mahasamant or Mahamandaleshwar. Sometimes they asserted their independence from their overlord. So class, in the chapter we discussed that the main is Samant. They have power. They are also known as subordinates, but they work under control of kings. They bring gift for the king and they serve their king also. But when they get power, when they get wealth, then they declare themselves free from their kings and declare themselves as Mahasamant or Mahamandaleshwar. Next point is, one such instance was that of the Rashtrakoot. We discussed one example here that when the Samant got power, they declare themselves as free. So here is one example. One such instance was that of the Rashtrakoot in the Deccan. This is an example. Rashtrakoot in the Deccan. Initially, they were subordinate to the Chalukya. The Rashtrakoot, they were subordinate to Chalukyas. They were living in Karnataka. In the mid 8th century, Danti Durga, a Rashtrakoot chief. Rashtrakoot, here we discuss one term, Rashtrakoot, the chief. The Rashtrakoot chief, his name was Danti Durga. They worked under the Chalukyas. But overthrew his Chalukya's overlord and performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha. Now they performed a ritual. It's called Hiranyagarbha. Listen class, this is a very important term. Hiranyagarbha. It means golden womb. It means golden womb. When the ritual was performed with the help of Brahmins, it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer as a Kshatriya, even if he was not born by birth. It means when we do Hiranyagarbha, a ritual Hiranyagarbha, then a person becomes Kshatriya. We already discussed that earlier. There were 4 categories. The first one is Brahman, second is Kshatriya, third is Vaishya, and the fourth one is Shudras. The first category, Brahman, they were most important. The kings, they serve Brahmans. The second is kings, means Kshatriya. They serve for their nation, they protect their nation, they do war, fights, etc. Third is Vaishya, they are doing business, trades, and the lowest category is Shudras. Now in this, by this Hiranyagarbha, if any person who is not belong to Kshatriya community, after this ritual he became to Kshatriya community and he fight for his rights also. So here is main term Hiranyagarbha. It means the golden womb. When this ritual was performed, whenever this ritual was performed with the help of Brahmins, it was thought to lead to the rebirth of the sacrificer. It means a person who is not belong to Kshatriya community, after this ritual, he belongs to Kshatriya community. In other cases, men from enterprising families used their military skills to carve out kingdoms. For instance, the Kadamba, Murasharaman, and the Gurjar Pratihar Hiranachandra were Brahmins who gave up their traditional professions and looked to arms, successfully establishing kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan respectively. Here are some examples, so you can read it by yourself. It means that some Brahmins, those who are not Kshatriya, but after some rituals and they declare themselves as Kshatriya and took to arms. They fight for their rights and they successfully established kingdom. They successfully established kingdom in Karnataka and Rajasthan. Now the next point is administration in the kingdom. Administration in the kingdom. Many of these new kings adopted high sounding titles such as Maharaja Dhiraj. It means when we talk about the Marathas, in Marathas, 2 most important posts are Peshwa and Chhatrapati. Chhatrapati is like president and Peshwa is like prime minister. So that when the kings, they got power and wealth, then they give themselves a name, Maharaja Dhiraj. It means great king, overlord of kings. Or the next one is Tribhuvan Chakravarti. It means lord of the 3 worlds. They themselves give their name, Maharaja Dhiraj. It means Rajao ka Raja, Maharaja Dhiraj. And the next term is Tribhuvan Chakravarti. It means Teen Bhavano ka Raja, means lord of the 3 worlds, and so on. However, in spite of such claims, they offer a shared power with their Samant as well as with associations of peasants, traders and Brahmins. After claiming these types of title, they shared their power with their Samant, those who work under their association of peasants, means Kisan, traders, Vyapari, and the last one is Brahmins. In each of these states, resources were obtained from the producers, that is peasants, cattle keeper, artisans, who were often persuaded or compelled to surrender part of what they produce. Sometimes these were claims as rent due to a lord who asserted. It means that the people, those who are work under there, they have to claim rent to their kings. In this paragraph, you can read some amazing points that in the time of Cholas who ruled in Tamil Nadu, who ruled in Tamil Nadu, in their time, there were 400 terms of taxes. There were 400 terms of different kind of taxes. The one main is Vetti. It means forced labor. It means forced labor. The most frequently mentioned tax is Vetti. taken not in cash. This tax vati is not taken in the form of cash but in the form of forced labor. In the form of forced labor. And Kadamai or the land revenue. There were also taxes on thatching the house. There were different type of houses. If you want to climb a tree, palm tree, then you have to pay tax. Next is if you want to share your family property, then you have to pay tax. Or if you want to cover up your house, means घर पर छत बनाने के लिए, if you want to cover up your house, then you should pay tax to your king. These are different type of taxes. How many taxes were there? 400 terms were used for taxes, and the main one is vati. Vati means forced labor. In this type of tax, you will not pay any cash. In this type of tax, you will give as in the form of forced labor. These resources were used to finance the king establishment. Why the king needs these type of taxes? Why the king need money from their peasants, from their traders? Why? Because they want to construct temple and fort. Because the king want to construct temple and forts. They were also used to fight wars. Whenever they want to fight, then they need weapons. They need weapons and tools. So how they will get money for this? They will collect tax and buy the weapons, which were in turn expected to lead to the acquisitions of wealth in the form of plunder and access to land as well as trade routes. The functionaries of collecting revenue were generally recruited from influential families and positions were often hereditary. This was true about the arms as well. In many cases, close relatives of the king held these positions. It means that when a king died, then the member of his family will take over his kingdom. Now the main word is prashasti. Prashasti and land grant. It means that, for example, if you write something about me, if you write something good about me, and then I will give you a pen or a toffee. It's a gift from my side that you write something good about me, so that if a Brahman or if any person, if any poet wrote something good about the king, then the king gave them land grants or prashasti. Prashasti contains details that may not be literally true. Sometimes the prashasti may not be true. Here you can see the picture of prashasti. I'll show you. This type of prashasti, they are made of metal. They are made of metal, and suppose you wrote something good about me. Okay, that Priti ma'am is this and this and this, blah blah blah. You wrote something good about me. Then I will give you a land, my house. I will give you my house. Then I wrote in this plate that I am Preeti and I am giving my house to this child because he wrote something good. And then I gave this plate to you. It's called prashasti. It's called prashasti. And in this plate I show you the total area of my house and everything which I have give to you. I will write all the points here. So in this, I think it's clear that what is prashasti. So prashasti contain detail that may not be literally true sometimes, but they tell us how rulers wanted to depict themselves. How the rulers wanted to depict themselves means वो अपने आप को कैसा दिखाना चाहते थे. As violent, victorious warrior, for example. These were composed by learned Brahmins who occasionally help in their administration. Brahmins, those who are helping their rulers, they wrote this type of prashasti. You wrote something good about me, then I will give you gift. If you wrote something bad about me, then I will not give you. That's why the Brahmins always wrote the good points of their rulers. Now the achievements of Nagbata. Here one example is there. Kings often rewarded Brahmins by grant of land. When the Brahmins wrote something good about the king, then the kings was very happy and then grant of land. Some amount of land they will give to their Brahmins. These were recorded on copper plates. Here you can see copper plates which were given to those who received the land. And I wrote here that I am Preeti and I am giving this land to my this student, and then the one copy of this plate I will give to you. Now next point is what? Usually for the 12th century was a long Sanskrit poem containing the history of king who ruled over the Kashmir. Here one important name is there. In your future, you will read about him that his name is Kalhan. His name is Kalhan. Kalhan wrote a poem for his king who ruled over Kashmir. Now the warfare for wealth. Why the king fight? Why? King fought with another king because of the land area, because of money also. So you may have noticed that each of these ruling dynasties were based in a specific region. At the same time, they tried to control other areas. When suppose I am living here and I want to conquer or I want to control next house also, so I will attack one particularly prized area was the city of Kannauj in the Ganga Valley. This is the most important area here, class. I will underline it for you that this is the main area, very important area. For this area, everybody will fight. Kannauj in Ganga Valley. Kannauj in the city of Kannauj in the Ganga Valley. For centuries, rulers belonging to Gurjar Pratihar, Rashtrakoot and Pal dynasties fought for control over Kannauj because there were three parties in this long run. One question is also in your book also, that what do you mean by tripartite struggle? Tripartite struggle means when the three dynasties fought for the city of Kannauj in the Ganga Valley. It's called tripartite struggle. Three dynasties means the first one is Gurjar Pratihar, the second one is Rashtrakoot, and the third one is Pal dynasties. The Pal dynasties. So class, this is all about your chapter. Rest of the term we will discuss tomorrow. Now our chapter is complete by tripartite struggle. Thank you so much, class.